Jeff Straw.
I'm Martin Cuevas.
Yes, and together we are DJF and Clutch. Well, not
No,
anymore.
not anymore. That's okay.
Good to see you, Martin.
Good to see you, Jeff. Glad to be here with you again doing this. This was a lot of fun the last time. Hopefully, this will be another good one for us.
I am in a new house on a new computer with the same beard. So hopefully things go smoothly. Uh, Forgive me if there's tech hiccups and whatnot. That I'm still getting settings and all the thing, the computer things. But I think we're pretty dialed. We did a little test run on this. So for those of you that don't know, welcome to Create More. This is a monthly session. We did take a couple months off, but we're starting back up. This will be the first Mondays of the month. And we like to do a deep dive into a topic surrounding creativity that really lets us sort of explore both the mental and the sort of operational side of creativity and do a deep dive into a specific topic between Martin and I. And then we also welcome members of our Discord community to join us here on stage via the Restream link. So if you are a Discord member, that link should be right at the top of the event. It's also in our Facebook group. And so if you want to join the Discord, there's a QR code right there on the screen that you could do that. By all means, we'd love to see you there. It's been a little quiet lately, if I'm being honest, but that's partly up to me. And it's been a really crazy few months with the move and a ton of gigs. So without further ado, let's get right into it. That's kind of the housekeeping bit, but I'm thankful for you guys being here. If you're on YouTube, if you are on Facebook or LinkedIn, please give us a chat. We will see the chats come through. I'd love to see you guys just giving us a hello, how are you? Hey, there we go. And we got our first comment. So hero. Good to see you, Chris. Yeah, it's been a ton of gigs for me. I'm super blessed to be a very, very working man lately. Feels good to be playing tons of music, doing a good chunk of photography, and yeah. So yeah, this month we wanted to talk about operating in the unknown. And we've got Ben here as well. Ben, I'm going to kind of keep you off stage for a little while. Just hang tight, buddy. I do see you there in the waiting room. You should be able to hear us. Turker's here too. Hello, my friend. Good to see you. So again, this month we're talking about operating in the unknown. I don't want to blow up your spot, Martin, but Martin has a big life change kind of coming in the next few months. And as him and I were just catching up, this topic came to light as something that might be good for us to explore. And so looking back at my recent history with my move and us not knowing what the heck we were going to do, it can be a really sort of trying time to try and run a business, to try and be creative, to try and just get things done when we're operating in a state of unknown. So that's what gave us our topic. Also, Martin and I are huge Tom Hanks fans, so I figured we would start with a quote from Tom. You want to read this to the fine people there, Martin? In your best Tom Hanks impersonation. No, don't do a Tom Hanks impersonation.
From Mr. Hanks, a hero is somebody who voluntarily walks into the unknown.
What does that mean to you?
What it means to me is that while there's thought about going into the unknown, there isn't any trepidation. Like you're facing it head on. You're going straight at him, as we used to like to say in the military. And you're dealing with it as in real time. You're not holding back because of fear. And we're going to talk a lot about fear here and coming up in a couple of minutes. But yeah, that's how I interpret that. And we've seen Tom Hanks do that a lot in his movies. So.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing is he does it. I think at least that he does it on screen and off screen too, which is some of the things he's done for the culture and for. Yeah, we don't need to do a Tom Hanks blowing steam up his ass, but let's blow a little steam up this guy's rear end. My beard idol and brother, Rick Rubin. This is kind of a lengthy quote, but let me read this to you. Usually when I start a new project, there's fear of the unknown. Again, there's that fear. We're going to talk about that. Maybe it's a band I've never been in the studio with before. People are so different. It's almost like you need to go through the process, discover and unlock what it is that makes that band that band. And a lot of times they don't know it. And when you look back at Rick's history of some of the like iconic records he's produced for iconic artists that he's worked with, and they've literally done their best work to date with him, he's able to pull something out of a band or out of even just an artist that the artist or the band didn't really know was there. And he's not scared to go into that notion of the unknown and dig around and see what presents itself. So anyways, I always like to start these with a couple quotes. This is another one I'm going to sort of paraphrase out of his book, which I'm in the middle of reading right now, called The Creative Act, A Way of Being. And it says one of the things that can help us when we're faced with what seems like an insurmountable struggle is this notion of practicing detachment. So it might be sort of like looking at our own lives almost like we're watching a movie, and saying, I wasn't really expecting that sort of a plot twist. I wonder where our hero's going next, instead of saying, oh, poor me, why me, right? So we're able to like almost watch the action from afar. And this is something that he suggests in his book as well. So just wanted to kind of pair those two Rick Rubin thoughts together. And right after that, he says, you can zoom in and obsess, or you can zoom out and observe. We get to choose. Brilliant, right? Like, at any given point, if you need to go in and detail orient and obsess over details and really get in the thick of things, then by all means. But you also have the ability to zoom out and simply observe, which can be a really powerful tool. Nate, good to see you. So for me, I'll start off with kind of some of my thoughts. Martin has a ton of really prepared things for us to talk through. So quickly, I wanted to give you guys my perspective on this. But creating art, for me, one of the best things is when there's at least some element of the unknown. The less I rely on really tried and true techniques, the more creative I usually am. In other words, like if I'm stumbling around in the dark, I generally bump into something that I like, whether that's, maybe shooting photos in a brand new location, that's playing sax over a record that I've never heard before. These kinds of things are able to pull out of an element of creativity for me that I really, really like. And I'm pretty proud of. This is my buddy Alex, and him and I have gone and shot at a multitude of different places. And the fun thing about the two of us is that we have a very keen sense of, I don't fucking know, let's grab the cameras and just go. And it takes us where it takes us, right? And invariably we wind up with really, really interesting looking work together. And that's part of the fun is the unknown, right? But that's the fun side of the unknown and creativity. What about like those big life unknowns? These scary questions I've got here about, what if I get laid off, or what if I go bankrupt, or if I don't get this job, things like that. Those kinds of things that plague us with this uncertainty are all rooted in a big fear of the unknown, right? How can we operate our businesses? How can we find ways to be creative? Or sometimes how can we even just get out of bed if we're faced with these like fully weighted down questions, right? And that's what we're going to try and talk through today for you guys, is some suggestions around this. A couple that have worked for me, and these are a few compared to, like, again, the list that Martin just got for us. But one is faith. And when I say faith, I don't mean like praying to some big magical space daddy. I mean like the universe just has a way of working out, right? And so if I put in my effort and I put in my work and I do the best I can possibly do, almost every time things work out. Now, it might not work out exactly the way I want it to, but things ultimately work out. So this fear of, oh my God, it's going to just all fall apart, most of those sorts of fears are unfounded. That takes me to this next one, historical evidence. So, have you ever had a time where you were faced with a similar circumstance? Like, I have to move. I don't know where I'm going to live next, or I hate this job. I want a new job, or that kind of thing, right? Like, we've all faced those things before and somehow managed through it. But the next time we're looking at them, we forget that we've already done some of this work before, and we have evidence that shows that, we're going to be okay. We have the tools at our disposal a lot of times to work through this. And if we don't, we can ask for help. And it's asking for help can be financial help, can be emotional support, mentoring, coaching, just a friend, and potentially therapeutic help. And I know, Martin, you dig into this notion as well in your content. So we're gonna do a little handoff here, but I think that most of those big, scary questions I raised at the beginning are rooted in fear, right? It's this notion that fear a lot of times is unfounded. It's rooted in hypotheticals. It's rooted in things that are completely out of our own control. And if something, I've learned in the last 10, 20 years that if something is completely out of my control, there's absolutely nothing I can do about it, then there's also absolutely no point in worrying about it, because it's going to happen the way it's going to happen, right? And it's so often and so easy for us to get caught up in those things. So for me, that's just a small kind of scratch of the surface of some of these things that have really helped me work through things in the unknown. I'm going to hand the mic over to Martin to kind of hop into some stuff that he's experienced through. Well, I'll just let you set it up there, buddy. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, man.
Really great stuff. And just to circle back a little bit about what you were just talking about, like when you're gathering your historical evidence, it's also really good to ask yourself, in the situation, what is the worst possible thing that can happen out of this thing I'm trying to do? And honestly, it's usually not that bad. Or it's something you've handled before and you're going to be able to handle again. And that's part of changing your perception and your experience of fear. Fear, right? Fear is an emotion, and happiness is an emotion. What do we all want to be? We all want to be happy at the end of the day, right? So how do we get there? What are some of the things we can do? And while fear serves a protective purpose, when it's excessive or when it's irrational, this is when it can become overwhelming, and it could actually start to interfere with our daily lives. Quick little scenario for you when it comes to dealing with unpleasant emotions. So, all right, we're going to use the house moving thing because that seems to be the big topic of conversation these days. Let's say you're moving into a new house, right? You've got the house, you've picked it, all your boxes are stacked up, they're ready to go. You've picked a day, you're going to unpack all those boxes. It's going to be the best day ever. You're in your new house. All of a sudden, you hear this annoying, loud, yipping bark coming from the backyard. You open up the door, right? And in the distance is a tiny little yappy dog just barking its way. It's really starting to annoy you and kind of freak you out a little bit. So you yell at the dog, bad, stupid dog, and you slam the door and you go back into your house and you start unpacking your boxes. A little time goes by. Now you hear the barking closer and louder. Open up the door, there's the dog a little bit closer. The dog's actually bigger now too, and it's starting to freak you out. It's like, you second dog, I don't like you either, get out of here, right? Back to the house, back to the boxes. Now there's this low growl coming from the window, and you look out there and holy crap, it's a massive dog ready to pounce on you. And now you're scared out of your wits. So you lock the door, you shut all the windows, you move all the boxes up against the door, and what happens? Nothing. You weren't able to unpack, you weren't able to do anything, your whole plans for the day are gone. Moral of the story is that first dog, you can transfer that into being an emotion, right? So what you want to do is you want to embrace that dog when it first hits you, and not let it grow into this thing that could become unmanageable. We call that one embrace the dog. But transfer the dog to your emotions, to the fear. And let's say you went and you tackled that fearful situation in the beginning when it was much, much smaller, then you have a much higher chance of success. So that's my little fear story. It really, really works. But here are some other things we can do to help challenge our perception and experience of fear. First and foremost, identify the source. Start working on understanding what's causing the fear. It could be something very specific, like the stupid dog, or it could be tangible, something you could feel, like maybe a fear of heights or something. And while other times it might be just a much more generalized experience, like having anxiety. So once you've identified it, it can help you address it in a more effective way. Like you have something to work towards. Awareness is the first step in getting better in a lot of these situations. And the next step you could take is you could educate yourself, empower yourself with knowledge, learn about the fear you're experiencing. And usually understanding what it is that is scaring you and freaking you out, um, that could help start to alleviate some of that fear as well. Now, I'm a big broken record when it comes to mindfulness and relaxation techniques. Um, yep,
Sorry, that's your broken record scratch. There you go.
exactly. Very good, outstanding. Um, I'm I can talk about mindfulness stuff all day and the benefits of it and what how much good can come of it. So by having a good mindfulness practice, and by that I mean something that's a habit, something that you look forward to doing every day. It doesn't need to be some big hour-long meditation or anything. It could be 5 minutes of just focusing on your breath kind of stuff. Deep breathing stuff, meditating. There's a really cool one if you want to Google called progressive muscle relaxation, and somebody will talk you through tensing up all your muscles in your body and relaxing afterwards. It's a cool little technique. And these techniques can help you stay grounded in the present moment and help reduce the physiological responses associated with fear. To be mindful is just that, to be in the present moment without being emotionally activated by stuff. When you have a good mindfulness practice, you're working towards emotion regulation. And, you're not turning your emotions on and off like a light switch. Wouldn't that be handy? It's just more regulating them and not letting them have such an effect on you. And once you start doing that in your mindfulness practice, you start doing that in real life. So let's say you're sitting there, your eyes are closed, you're doing your meditation stuff, whatever that might be, and something that's been bothering you creeps up to the front of your consciousness there. So what do you do about it? Do you react to it? Or do you just identify what it is and let it pass on by? That's the trick. I mean, that's the long and short of it. If you can do that enough, then stuff in the real world will start to make more sense. Um, something There's something called exposure therapy, right? And this is just slowly but surely exposing yourself to the things that you're really scared of, but in a controlled and safe way. This will allow you to desensitize your fear over time. Um, and it really shouldn't be done alone. Like getting the help of a mental health professional like myself is usually beneficial in situations like that. And then that same therapist could help you through the tenets of cognitive behavioral therapy, which is basically stating that your thoughts, your emotions, and your feelings are all intertwined with your behaviors. So change the way you think, change your behavior. Sounds real easy, but it is not, and it takes a lot of practice. Um, and then it's also important to visualize the positive. What does it look like to successfully confront and overcome your fear? Visualizing can help rewire your brain's response to the fear trigger. Where is it that you want to be in your head? Visualize that and work towards getting there. Movement, physical activity is really important too when it comes to changing your perception and experience of fear. You don't have to be like a gym bro or anything like that, but get outside, walk around. It's great just for helping to reduce overall feelings of fear and anxiety. And then who do you have in your corner?
Before you hop into that, I wanted to touch in on that one.
Sure.
The Again, not being a gym bro, but at least having a notion of physical activity. I work a lot with sort of mentees and students, and musicians and producers. Like, we like the night, we like our little rooms and our studios, and it's sometimes daylight is a bit vampiric for us, and we don't necessarily get out lots, right? But the flip side of that is I've done some Tony Robbins work, and Tony, you know I don't necessarily subscribe to everything that he says and does, but man, the guy's a powerhouse. And one of the things that he always does when he starts his sessions is he actually gets everyone up out of their chair, has them do some body movement to really activate their energy, and it changes. You change your physiology, you change your perception of reality, and it's just I don't think enough good can be said that even a lightweight or a short, vigorous activity, you don't even have to run. You can just move your arms really fast. You can jump up and down a little bit. Like any of these quick, radical changes can drastically alter what's going on up here and reframe things for us. So I just wanted to like lean in on that one a little bit.
No,
All
that's
right,
great.
back to you.
That, that's great.
And I have the barking dog that you were afraid of in the example.
There's that dog. Hug him. Hug
He's
that dog
joining
right
us.
now. Embrace
All right.
that dog. That's awesome. So, and then, yeah, who are your people? Who is the person or who are the persons that you can talk to about your stuff that aren't going to judge you or, do anything like that, but just support you? So, is it friends, family? Is it your therapist? Expressing your feelings, actually saying them out loud is important. It can help you feel less alone, more supported, and less isolated. You want to set goals that are achievable. You want to set goals that are attainable. You don't want to set, well, you can set big, gigantic goals, and we'll talk about that a little more in a little bit. But it's important to break those goals down into smaller ones that you could actually succeed with. Each step you take is one step closer to your goal, but it's one step at a time. And sometimes it's hard to get to that point because you're so overwhelmed with the enormity of whatever your goal is going to be. So each little step you take can boost your confidence and reduce your fear.
Thinking
And
about these big unknowns,
yeah,
I hate to keep using the house example, but maybe some of the other ones. Um, when we're looking for a job, like the goal is the new job, right? But what it's so easy to get stuck in. But I don't have the job. Like that's my goal, and now I'm stuck, right? So the idea of breaking down, like, okay, I'm going to send out, 5 resumes every single day, for the next 3 weeks or 10 a day or whatever that number is for you. That's something that you can control and something that you can check off that list so that you are making forward progress towards that goal, even if the ultimate outcome isn't necessarily in our control. It's going to give us that sense of satisfaction and take us out of that fear of the unknown into action, which is important.
it's really important. Um, Super important. Um, so your goals are set, but maybe you need a little more help. So that's when you talk to somebody like me, or whoever it is that is a professional in your life that can help walk you through this, especially if your fear is causing you significant distress and it's significantly impacting your life. Talking to a person, a mental health professional, could be crucial in getting better. We've got all these strategies and interventions that we use to help you address your specific fears. And it's, also important to have some self compassion. Be kind to yourself. Don't put yourself down for working through your fear. Remember, it's a journey, it's a process, and there will be setbacks. And what's important is that you're going to be okay with the setbacks and not treat them as a negative thing. Treat them as an opportunity for growth. Fear is it's complex. It's different for everybody, and overcoming it, whatever it might be, could take some time, and that's okay. It's important to be patient with yourself. Talk to somebody, and do what you got to do to be better, to help better affect your well-being, basically. So those are some ideas, some tips and tricks about changing your perception and experience of fear. Real quick, I'll just go down the list. Identify the source, educate yourself, get a good mindfulness practice. Expose yourself. Don't expose yourself. That came off really good. That's going to be edited. Don't worry about what I just said. Get into some therapy. Rely on your support system. Set goals that you could, set big goals, but set smaller goals to achieve that big goal. Get some help and be kind to yourself in the process, and you'll get through. Then there's stress. Who here has some stress? Yep, Jeff's got some. I have some. Stress can go either way, and it's very similar to the stuff we were just talking about. And stress can be your friend if you practice some tips and tricks on how to do it. It's basically shifting perspective and working on. Oh, who's that? It looks like somebody's going to hand up.
I think he was just saying he's got stress too.
Okay,
It's a
outstanding.
little bit of a delay on the, yeah.
Got it. Got it. Um, so shifting your perspective, adapting healthier coping strategies, and that could be, again, like I mentioned before, taking a walk outside or playing an instrument or whatever it is that makes you happy that isn't going to make you unhealthy. So an unhealthy coping strategy would be like using drugs and alcohol. That's not great, and it's not usually going to help with your stress in the long run. Stress, you can't really call it something. I mean, you can, depending on where you're at. It's not necessarily a positive thing, but changing your relationship with it can help you manage it more effectively. And here's a couple of ways to do that to help approach stress in a more positive way. Acknowledging and accepting it for what it is. So instead of pushing back against it, slamming the door on that dog, and acknowledge that it's a natural response to whatever challenging situation you might find yourself in. Accept that stress is going to be a part of your life and can even serve as a signal that you care about what you're doing. But awareness is always the first step in all of this stuff, because if you're not aware of what it is that you're doing, you can't effectively challenge it. And sometimes we're so emotionally charged up because of a stressful event that your awareness isn't really working. So there's tips and tricks on how to do that. One of them is keeping a good journal. I know a lot of people don't like to journal, but journaling can be actually really simple. It doesn't need to be you just talking about all your problems on a page. It can be very, very simple of becoming aware of your emotions. So maybe you're feeling super stressed out, you're all charged up, but you want to figure out a way on how to challenge that later on. So write that thing down. Write it down, pen and paper. Close that book, put it away, come back to it later when you're not emotionally charged up, and challenge it. See if it's valid or not. And what I'm talking about is your emotional reaction to the stress. That will help you get to a mindset shift. It's your body preparing you for whatever challenge awaits you. It can be harmful, but it doesn't have to be if you approach it the right way. Learn from and gather, but basically learn from other situations that have been stressful for you. Embrace stress, embrace that dog as a chance to develop new skills, help to build resilience and become more adaptable to these stressful situations. Back to the coping strategies. I can't say it enough that they need to be healthy. They need to be something that fosters growth within you in a healthy way. For like the musical instrument example, when I pick up that guitar behind me, that is very much a mindfulness exercise for me, because I need to be mindful of every note I'm going to play, otherwise it's going to sound like crap. That then translates into me being mindful in other aspects of my life. So that's a good way to go also. Your goals, we talked about them a little bit, but once again, break down overwhelming tasks into smaller, manageable, attainable steps. And I'll also stress the importance of writing stuff down. There's something about putting pen to paper that changes the power of a thing. Even when you say it out loud, that's a powerful thing. But when you write something down, that's a goal that you want to be successful at, and then you achieve that goal and you cross it out, you're changing your brain. You're getting your brain set up for more victories in the future. So you could even start now by maybe you're waking up in the morning and you write down 3 things you know you can accomplish that day. I'm going to go buy some milk. I'm going to walk the dog. I'm going to make my bed. Write them down, do the thing, cross it out. You should be feeling pretty good about yourself. And that also leads into the self-compassion piece that we were talking about earlier. You're going to be stressed. You're going to be worked up. It's important to be kind to yourself when these things happen. You want to treat yourself with the same empathy and emotion as you would offer a friend going through a similar situation.
I think artists especially are innately we're so hard on ourselves, and that's something common with a lot of the people I've worked with,
Mm-hmm.
and certainly with myself. Right, is that I'm nothing but gracious and encouraging
Mm-hmm.
and empathetic and all this positive constructive feedback for anyone that needs it until I watch one of my own videos or listen to one of my own recordings, and I'm just like, this fucking guy, and I'm terrible to myself. Like, it's such an innate knee jerk reaction to rip myself apart, whether it's the work that I've created, whether it's my own behaviors, whether it's my own sort of habits or lack of habits that I'm trying to establish, like anything. Like, it's just, I am not kind to myself without putting in some work. Like, it is not my de facto setting. Hey, de facto. Um, setting that I don't just operate like that, right? Like, it really takes work for me to kind of be like, hey, man, it's give yourself a break. It's gonna be okay. Doing the best you can. And like some of these, like remind myself some of these things. And the other thing is that at the end of the day, uh, none of it's ending world hunger, right? Like it's a saxophone video, or it's like don't take myself so goddamn seriously all the time, right? And there's something to be said for that too. And it's easier to be nice to myself when I realize like the scope of the work isn't the Sistine Chapel, isn't like one of these enduring the test of time kinds of things. And so that kind of helps the perspective jog a little bit too.
Sure. And that's a great example of the awareness piece that I was just talking about. So let's
Yeah.
say you're watching your saxophone video there and you're just super unhappy with it and it's just not something you wanted it to be and you're all worked up. Write down what you're feeling in the moment as a little trick and then come back to it later when you're feeling better and then you'll probably realize that you were stressed out for not much and that it wasn't really the most valid thing to be in that state of mind at that moment.
Yep.
um, and while you're all worked up, seek the support. Go back out, reach out to your friends, your family, your therapist, whoever it might be. Share what you're feeling. Get some empathy coming back towards you. um, Another way to make stress your friend is just try to incorporate some more humor and playfulness into your life. You know, Laughter, whatever it is that you enjoy, can help counterbalance stress and promote a positive outlook.
I realized I'm behind you a couple on these slides. Sorry.
Oh, good. It's all good. Um,
There we go. I think I'm caught up now.
there you go. Yeah, you got.
Sorry about that.
No, no problem. No problem. So yeah, so you seek support, find something that makes you happy. Something fun to do. Could be anything. It's all subjective. Everybody's different. Maybe something that makes you laugh, a funny movie. Um, Listening to your favorite stand-up comic, whatever it might be. Spending time with your family that you enjoy. That'll help you develop resilience by learning from setbacks, which will help you bounce back stronger. Um, each experience of managing stress can contribute to your overall growth and strength. Stress isn't permanent. The goal isn't to embrace it as a permanent friend, to have right next to you, but more so to develop a more constructive relationship with it. And if you find that stress is just always overwhelming and impacting your day to day, maybe you do need to talk to somebody to help you manage it more effectively. Um, and
Got
that,
a review slide here for this one too, which is here for the screenshotters out there.
sure,
Here's a nice little sort of wrap up of those.
knowledge and accept, become aware, shift your mindset, learn from the stress, and that way, you have a basis for going into another stressful situation. Get that healthy coping strategy going, set goals that you could accomplish, um, compassion, positive outcomes, time management, support from your support system, do something that you enjoy, that you find humor in, and all this stuff will help you to practice resilience. Those are a couple of just ways to help make stress your friend. Let's see. What do we got next, Jeff?
So, hey now. I'm going to bring Ben up. He's been patiently hanging here.
All right, Ben.
Hey, buddy. Long time create more. What do we call our little crew, the people, the creators? Hey, there we go. That's better. Create more doors. I don't know. Ben, good to see you. You might have to unmute yourself. I'm not sure if I'm seeing audio from you yet. Yeah, no. That's okay. This platform it's wonky the first time. So just bear with it. See if you can find the little settings wheel. It should be on there. And there may be a mute as well. So Martin, thank you. While he's getting his audio sorted out, room full of audio engineers, and we can't work a web portal, right? Thousands and thousands of dollars of audio gear sitting behind him. But the mute button is elusive. Yes.
That's right. So Ben, this could be stressful. Remember all the things I just said.
Right. No,
nice.
So back to this list here. I'll probably kind of bring this back up while he's getting going. You covered a lot. I mean, also in the fear section, you covered a lot. And I was sort of worried about time, and you did a good job at like kind of getting through all of this without breezing through it necessarily, but without lingering too long, so that we could really cover a really large portion of material. If you had to pick like one of these, and you're not allowed to pick mindfulness because that's on the fear one. That's good. If you had to pick one of these that you use the most, what would that be?
Oh man, there's a question for you. I think the self-compassion thing.
Yeah.
I've always had this awful habit of beating myself up and stopping whatever it is I wanted to accomplish because I'm beating myself up. And what I've needed to do is learn to not be that way. I'm much more productive, much more creative, much more everything when I'm kind to myself. When I'm beating myself up, which can be a motivational thing occasionally, but when you're doing that all the time, you're starting to limit your self-worth, and it's just not a great place to be. So self-compassion is something that I work on a lot. Knowing that I'm not perfect and being okay with it and working towards being better at whatever it is.
Wait. You're not perfect?
Well, I'm perfect. I talk about it in these groups, in this room. You know what I mean?
Ben, you also, but I was having problems with audio on Safari versus Chrome. So if you're on Chrome, maybe try the other flip-flop. I don't know, for what it's worth. I poke and I prod, right? Because the perfectionism thing is I think another thing that so many of us struggle with, which is another disguise that fear wraps up in, right? This notion of perfection. But like being okay with our humanity, being okay with shortcomings. And I swear to God, I do listen to people other than Rick Rubin. I'm just on this kick lately. But the thing I just heard him say the other day was that, if the piece of work has 5 mistakes, it might not be done yet. When the work has 8 mistakes, it's probably done, right? This notion of like, it's not the number of problems within a piece or the piece of work. It's, it's done when it's done, and letting the work kind of breathe for itself. All right, well, I'm going to hide you, buddy. Sorry,
that was
nice. Thanks for joining, Ben. We love you.
You matter, bro. You matter to all of us. All right.
He really does. Like he's been more of these, I think, than me. So it's always good to see your face, man. Yeah. So self-compassion, and I mean, I shared on that one already too, that's been a really big one for me as well, and did not come naturally at all. Um, the if we go back to this fear list, I'd be curious to ask you the same question, which is, there they go. Right. So looking back at these ways of changing perceptions and experiences of fear, and again, you're not allowed to pick mindfulness,
You're such a
but I'm going to
pro.
put you on the spot here, like aside, because I just know what a big part of your life it's
Yeah,
become.
yeah.
What's another one on that list that really kind of you find yourself using on a regular basis that's really worthwhile and helpful?
Well, it'd be two of them. The first one is identifying the source and becoming aware of what it is without it being too emotional for you, and then setting realistic goals to get there.
Okay.
Uh, like stuff that I know I'm going to be able to do. And then just like we had mentioned earlier, like going straight at it, straight at them with it without the fear. Those are two things that I do a lot. Um, especially when it comes to like my photography stuff. You got to set realistic goals. It's just too many steps and so many things can go wrong at any given moment during all the stuff that I do. And it's sometimes really hard to stay positive when you've spent all night trying to take pictures of outer space and then one thing went wrong and your whole night is wasted. Then you just want to throw everything in the river and set new goals, kind of stuff. So
I
that's where,
literally can't imagine, like, if I spend a minute on a frame doing like a long exposure, I think, first of all, I think that's insane amount of time. And if it doesn't come out, I'm so angry. So if
mm-hmm.
you, if you literally spend a whole night working on an image set to, and it goes awry and all of it is deemed not usable, I can't even imagine. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
you can't be, for what I do, you can't be cocky about it. Write down the steps, Martin.
Right.
Write them down because you're going to forget
For,
something.
for those of you guys that don't know, Martin does astrophotography, right? So he's doing incredibly deep and multi-layered, sort of multiple exposures, massive amounts of multiple exposure shots of outer space using a very sort of sophisticated setup with his camera, and I just bring my thing and point and press the button and just lay down on the ground to make things look cooler. That's usually my approach. But like, so neat that we both, we met through proximity, but bonded over music, and
Mhm.
we both found photography as this like additional passion that we've pursued in two incredibly different approaches
Yeah.
and genres within it, which I just think is super fascinating. And when Simon and I started these sessions, it was also very similar. Like, Simon is this incredibly talented landscape photographer who is
Yeah.
just, again, he's similar to you in that he has to be super meticulous about the weather, the conditions, the time, where the sun's going to come up, the exact location he's going to shoot at. And it's so
Mm-hmm.
different than my improvisational kind of approach. Yet we both love it. We both kind of create really outstanding work in very different ways. And so it speaks to this notion of, for me, it's so much about getting in action. Just start. Like, when you're stuck, when things are unknown, just like take a step, take a couple steps, push through towards something. And I guess part of that's realistic goals, but even if you don't necessarily know what the goal is, you just have a general idea of a direction, let's head that
Mm-hmm.
way for a minute and see what happens. And for me,
Mm-hmm.
like, that notion of just putting in the work, getting in action, clicking some frames, putting the saxophone together and blowing some notes, like whatever that looks like, can drastically affect everything else, as opposed to sitting and thinking and worrying and wondering and pontificating and all of those things that are up here, instead of the action that kind of happens in the real world. So for me, that's a big one.
Yeah, and there's a whole other conversation we can have about behavior change and what it means for humans to change their behaviors and ways to go about it. But this is the kind of stuff you talk about with your therapist. But I won't go into
Yeah.
all that stuff right now.
Another big one is this notion of positive visualization. I don't know if anybody has, like, I find when I'm shopping for gear, like, I'll just go down rabbit holes of whatever the thing is that I'm really keen on having. And invariably, I turn around and like, oh look, it's here. Like somehow I manifested it, right? Like my incredible focus and research and digging around a particular lens or this new computer that I had to buy because my old computer died on me. Um, sometimes these are like very long term, months and months and months, or even a year of obsessing over a certain thing. I shouldn't use the word obsessed, but like really focusing in on the need, the want, the specifications, what it would do to sort of enhance my workflow, what it would do to enhance my creativity or my business. And this form of visualizing it as if it's already here, um, 9 times out of 10, manifest the thing into being and into my workflow and sort of being as a part of my kit. And that doesn't happen if you just think about something casually once, right? And so the takeaway is the same thing with my career, with our careers, with our sort of mindset around growth on socials or whatever it is. Like we can have these casual thoughts around like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to have an extra 10,000 followers, or wouldn't it be cool to have this really massive catalog of successful music on Spotify or whatever. Yet if we're not really focused on it for large periods of time, there's not enough sort of energy and to there's not enough energy behind small amounts of focus to make it happen. Like it needs to be a continuing and progressive look into those things that we really want. So when we're faced with the unknown, we'll figure out what it is that we want and how does it frame into that unknown. And sometimes they're not related, right? Sometimes like I don't know where I'm going to live and I want to keep making music. Like those two things don't necessarily feel like they're combined, but there's ways to draw threads between any two or three things as well, right? And so I don't know. I can just stop this screen share. No, I'm kind of just talking. But this has been a good session. I feel like we've uncovered some nice little inroads into things, and obviously we had a lot of prepared material. But Ben, I'm sorry you weren't able to get your mic going. But and I know Martin, you've got to jump fairly soon. So in the sort of essence of respecting everybody's time, if nobody else has any sort of questions, thoughts, comments, that was kind of what we had prepared for you guys for this session. And as always, it's been really great to see everybody. I really appreciate seeing the comments come through on socials so that we know that there's somebody out there on the other end. If you are watching on socials and you want to be kind of here with us, we're more than happy to have as many of you want to come in. I do have a cap on the room, but it's pretty big. And that link is always in the Discord server. So let me pop that back up. I think everybody that's in the room right now is in that. But if you're not, there's a quick QR code for you that you can join that Discord server. We also have a Facebook group, so I'll swap this out for the Facebook QR code in just a moment. Give you a second to snapshot that guy. That should work. Sometimes the Discord links are wonky, but I did test it. I think it's going to be good. And if you're not in the Facebook group, there is the Facebook QR code. So that's about it for housekeeping. Like I said, it's always great to see everybody. Martin, thanks for your thoughts and your expertise on this from the therapeutic side. It's always interesting to hear this and to engage with you on these topics, my friend. So thanks, man.
Thank you, sir. This was a great one. I
Yeah.
always enjoy doing these.
So we will. The last thing about housekeeping is I want to put a sort of a flag in the ground or draw a line in the sand that we're going to do these on the first Monday of the month. Look, that may change, but that's the goal right now, is to make the first Mondays work. It's just easier if we know it's going to be a certain day of the month, and so let's roll with these first Mondays. I think that's going to be a good look here for the rest of the year, and we'll communicate that obviously as the topics come up and the dates get settled, but I hope I can see you guys soon. Again, Ben, thank you so much for being in here. Everybody else that was on the threads and on the socials, super appreciate everybody. And yeah, feel free if you hopped in late, like Dwayne, Mr. Native Intelligence says, oh, but nice photo, by the way, buddy. His YouTube photo is one that I took. I always love seeing that. by all means, watch back. Watch it back on YouTube. If the platforms don't matter to you, then I'd like you to watch on YouTube. If it matters, then you can watch wherever. But head over to the YouTube. That will be sort of available to rewatch, I think, almost immediately. So, all right, you guys. Last thoughts from you, Martin? Are you good to go?
Well, just this was great. It's always great to bounce these ideas back and forth. I love your perspective. Glad we had some people show up. Um, you know, Hopefully some more interaction next time to get some more folks in. And yeah, this was great. Thank you, Jack.
Absolutely, you guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you on the old interwebs and catch you live next month. All right, guys. Have a great rest of your evening and a great week ahead. Peace.